the ocean breathes. Right now, as you listen to these words, trillions of gallons of water are rising and falling across every coastline on Earth in a rhythm so ancient, so precise that it predates the pyramids, the dinosaurs, even the first spark of life itself. But here's what will keep you awake tonight, or perhaps help you drift peacefully into sleep. This rhythm isn't controlled by Earth at all. It's orchestrated by a silent conductor hanging in the darkness above us, pulling and releasing our planet's waters with an invisible hand that reaches across 250,000 miles of empty space. And what scientists discovered in 2024 about this cosmic dance will change everything you thought you knew about the connection between our world and the moon. Hello there, and welcome to another journey through the quiet mysteries of our universe. I'm here with you tonight, wherever you might be, whatever time has brought you to this moment of curiosity. Maybe you're settling in after a long day, or perhaps you're one of those wonderfully restless minds that finds peace in pondering the grand mechanisms that keep our world spinning. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, we're going to explore something that touches your life every single day, yet remains as mysterious as it was to the first humans who stood on ancient shores and watched the water retreat, then return, as if the sea itself were breathing. We're going to discover how a ball of rock floating in the cosmic dark has been secretly choreographing one of the most spectacular shows on Earth for over 4 billion years. And we're going to uncover recent scientific revelations that suggest the moon's influence reaches far deeper into the fabric of our world than anyone ever imagined. But before we dive into those dark waters, I want you to take a moment. Wherever you are right now, pause and listen. If you're near a window, maybe you can hear the distant hum of the world continuing its ancient rotation. If you're somewhere quiet, perhaps you can detect the subtle rhythm of your own breathing, your own heartbeat, the small tides of your body keeping time with forces you've never consciously considered. Yeah, because that's what this is really about. Connection, the invisible threads that bind everything in our universe together, from the smallest drop of water to the vast cosmic bodies that dance through space in patterns too large for any single lifetime to fully comprehend. Tonight, we're going to follow one of those threads, and it's going to lead us places you never expected. The story begins not with the ocean, but with a collision. 4.5 billion years ago, when our solar system was still young and chaotic, a Mars-sized object called Theia slammed into the early Earth with such tremendous force that it literally knocked our planet sideways and sent molten debris spinning into orbit. From that cosmic catastrophe, our moon was born, and from that moment, Earth would never be the same. But here's where it gets interesting. The moon didn't just become Earth's companion, it became Earth's choreographer, its timekeeper, its silent partner in a dance that would shape every drop of water, every grain of sand, every living creature that would ever call this planet home. And the first movement of that dance was the tide. Picture this. Right now, as you listen, the moon is pulling on every molecule of water in every ocean, lake and river on Earth. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally. The same force that keeps the moon in orbit around our planet is at this very moment tugging on the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, even the glass of water sitting on your bedside table. It's a force so gentle you'll never feel it directly, yet so powerful it can lift billions of tons of seawater twice every day. Sir Isaac Newton, sitting in his garden over 3 centuries ago, was the first to truly understand what was happening. He realized that the moon's gravitational pull creates what we might think of as an invisible embrace around our planet. But here's the beautiful paradox that even Newton might have found surprising. The moon doesn't just pull water towards itself, it creates 2 enormous bulges of water on opposite sides of Earth simultaneously. Think about this for a moment. While the moon pulls the oceans on one side of Earth toward itself, it's simultaneously allowing the oceans on the far side of the planet to bulge outward into space. It's as if Earth is being gently stretched, like a ball of clay in the hands of a cosmic sculptor, creating two simultaneous high tides on opposite sides of our world. And as our planet rotates beneath these bulges, every coastline experiences the eternal rhythm of high and low tide, twice each day, without fail, for billions of years. But the moon isn't working alone in this cosmic orchestra. Our sun, that brilliant star that gives us light and warmth, also exerts its gravitational influence on Earth's waters. Now, you might think that something as massive as the sun would dominate the tides completely. After all, the sun is 27 million times more massive than the moon. Its gravitational pull on Earth is over 170 times stronger than the moon's. Yet here's one of those beautiful mysteries that makes our universe so endlessly fascinating. Despite its enormous size and gravitational strength, the sun's influence on our tides is only about half as strong as the moon's. The secret lies not in mass but in distance. The moon's proximity to Earth, a mere 250,000 miles away compared to the sun's 93 million mile distance, makes all the difference. In the mathematics of gravity, distance matters more than size, and closeness creates intimacy. When the sun and moon align, working together during what we call new moons and full moons, their combined gravitational forces create what oceanographers call spring tides. These are the most dramatic tides of the month, when high water reaches its highest and low water drops to its lowest. The word spring has nothing to do with the season. It comes from the Old English word meaning to leap or to rise up, which perfectly describes what the water does during these celestial alignments. Twice a month, when the sun and moon pull at right angles to each other, their gravitational influences partially cancel out, creating gentler nap tides. It's a cosmic balancing act that has been playing out for eons, creating a rhythm within a rhythm, a pattern within a pattern, like the complex harmonies of a symphony that never ends. And sometimes, just sometimes, the moon comes closer to Earth in its elliptical orbit, creating what we've come to call supermoons. During these celestial encounters, the tides can rise 20% higher than normal, creating what coastal communities call king tides. In 2024, cities from Sydney to San Francisco reported these extraordinary tidal events, moments when the ocean seemed to remember its ancient power and briefly reclaim territories it hadn't touched in months or years. But here's where our story takes a turn toward the truly extraordinary. For centuries, scientists believed they understood the scope of the moon's influence on Earth. Tides were tides, affecting the oceans, the coasts, the creatures that lived between land and sea. It was a beautiful, predictable system that seemed to have clear boundaries. Then in January 2024, researchers published findings that changed everything. Using data collected by satellites over more than 40 years, they discovered something that should have been impossible, yet was happening right above our heads, every single day. The moon wasn't just pulling on Earth's oceans, it was creating tides in space itself. The discovery centered on something called Earth's magnetosphere, that invisible shield of magnetic fields and charged particles that protects our planet from the harsh radiation of space. Within this protective bubble lies what scientists call the plasmasphere, a region of electrically charged particles that surrounds Earth's upper atmosphere like a vast, invisible ocean. And this ocean, this sea of plasma and magnetic fields floating in the darkness above our heads, rises and falls with the moon's gravitational pull, just like the waters of Earth's oceans. The moon, it turns out, has been conducting two orchestras simultaneously, one of water and one of electricity, both keeping time to the same ancient rhythm. Think about what this means. Every time you look up at the moon, whether it's a thin crescent hanging in the evening sky or a full silver disk illuminating the night, you're seeing the conductor of two vast tidal systems. One you can observe from any beach, watching the water advance and retreat with meditative regularity. The other is completely invisible, a cosmic tide of charged particles and magnetic fields ebbing and flowing in the space around our planet. This discovery opens up questions that scientists are only beginning to explore. If the moon's influence extends into Earth's magnetosphere, what other hidden connections might exist between our celestial companion and the systems that make life possible on our planet? How long has this space tide been occurring? Has it influenced the development of life on Earth in ways we've never considered? But the moon's influence on life itself extends far beyond these recent discoveries about magnetic tides. For millions of years, countless species have been synchronizing their most important activities with lunar cycles, creating some of the most spectacular natural phenomena on our planet. Consider the coral reefs of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Once each year, triggered by a precise combination of lunar phase, water temperature, and seasonal timing, over 100 species of coral simultaneously release billions of eggs and sperm into the water in what marine biologists call the greatest reproductive event on Earth. This mass spawning is so precisely timed to lunar cycles that researchers can predict it months in advance, watching as entire reef systems transform the ocean into a living snowstorm of coral reproduction. But how do these tiny coral polyps, creatures without eyes or brains as we understand them, know when the moon is right? The answer lies in proteins called cryptochromes, light-sensitive molecules that can detect the subtle blue wavelengths of moonlight filtering down through seawater. These same proteins that help regulate human circadian rhythms allow corals to read the lunar calendar written in light itself. The precision is breathtaking. Marine worms called Platineries dumerili, living in shallow waters across the world's oceans, have been bred in laboratories for over 70 years, generation after generation removed from their natural environment. Yet even in artificial conditions, they maintain perfect synchronization with lunar cycles, their reproductive timing as precise as an atomic clock. Their internal lunar calendar, passed down through genetic memory, continues to tick in rhythm with a moon they may never directly observe. This phenomenon extends throughout marine ecosystems in ways that scientists are only beginning to map. Plankton populations rise and fall with tidal cycles, creating underwater blooms that feed fish, which in turn feed larger predators. Whales and manta rays follow these plankton blooms, timing their migrations to coincide with lunar-driven abundance. The moon's gravitational pull doesn't just move water, it moves life itself, creating a complex web of relationships that connect the smallest microorganisms to the largest creatures in the ocean. Even more surprisingly, recent research has revealed that the moon's influence reaches far inland through river systems. Tidal bores, waves created when ocean tides push upstream against river currents, can travel dozens of miles from the coast. In 2025, researchers documented a tidal bore traveling 75 kilometers up the Qiantang River in China, carrying the moon's influence deep into the continental interior. These inland tides create unique ecosystems where freshwater meets saltwater in constantly shifting boundaries. Organisms living in these zones must be adapted not just to changing salinity, but to the rhythmic expansion and contraction of their habitat as lunar tides advance and retreat. It's as if the moon reaches invisible fingers deep into the continents, touching places that seem far removed from its oceanic domain. As we continue to discover the extent of lunar influence on our planet, we're also beginning to harness that ancient power for our own purposes. Tidal energy, the direct capture of gravitational forces between Earth and Moon, represents one of the most promising sources of renewable energy available to our species. Unlike solar panels that depend on sunny weather or wind turbines that require consistent breezes, tidal generators tap into forces that have been reliable for billions of years. The Moon's orbit can be predicted with extraordinary accuracy, allowing engineers to forecast tidal energy production decades or even centuries in advance. It's renewable energy with the reliability of clockwork, powered by cosmic mechanics that will continue long after our sun burns out. In the Faroe Islands, advanced tidal systems are already generating significant portions of the island's electrical needs. The Luna 12 tidal kite, developed by Minesto, proved during its pilot phase that tidal energy could provide continuous electricity for months at a time. With a rated power of 1.2 megawatts, a single unit can power approximately 200 homes annually, drawing its energy directly from the moon's gravitational embrace. The global potential is staggering. Conservative estimates suggest that exploitable tidal power around the world could reach 100 gigawatts, enough to supply electricity for millions of homes. In Scotland, tidal turbines have operated continuously for over 6 years without unscheduled maintenance, demonstrating the reliability of technology that works in harmony with cosmic forces rather than fighting against them. But as we develop these technologies, we're also becoming aware of how human activities are altering the very tidal systems we're trying to harness. Climate change, rising sea levels, and ocean acidification are creating compound effects that interact with lunar tides in increasingly complex ways. The moon hasn't changed, but the world beneath it certainly has. What makes this particularly poignant is that we're living through a moment of transition. For the first time in Earth's history, one species has developed the ability to understand, predict, and potentially modify the tidal systems that have shaped our planet for eons. We're discovering connections between Moon and Earth that extend far beyond what our ancestors could have imagined, while simultaneously altering the very systems we're learning to comprehend. The ocean still breathes with the moon's rhythm, just as it has for billions of years. But now that breath is deeper in some places, shallower in others, occasionally interrupted by changes our species has introduced to the ancient conversation between celestial bodies and terrestrial seas. As we drift toward the end of this first part of our journey, I want you to imagine stepping outside right now and looking up at whatever phase of moon happens to be visible in your sky. Whether it's a bright full moon casting silver light across the landscape, or a thin crescent barely visible in the evening twilight, you're looking at the conductor of a symphony that encompasses not just every drop of water on Earth, but the very magnetic fields that protect our planet from space. The next time you stand beside any body of water, from the greatest ocean to the smallest pond, remember that you're witnessing a performance that has been running continuously for longer than life has existed on Earth. You're seeing the physical manifestation of invisible forces that connect our world to the cosmos in ways that scientists are still discovering. But this is only the beginning of our exploration. The moon's influence on Earth extends into realms we haven't yet discussed, shaping not just physical systems, but the very evolution of life itself, the development of human consciousness, and perhaps even the future of our species among the stars. There are discoveries waiting in the depths of this story that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the relationship between Earth and its cosmic companion. The question that will carry us forward is this: if the moon has been shaping our world in ways we're only now beginning to understand, what other hidden influences might be operating in the space between worlds, in the connections between consciousness and cosmos, in the relationships between the very large and the very small that make existence possible? But that's a mystery for the next part of our journey together. For millennia, human beings have stood on beaches and watched the rhythmic dance of waves, never fully understanding that they were witnessing something far more profound than water meeting shore. They were observing the visible heartbeat of a relationship that extends beyond our planet, beyond our understanding of life itself, into realms where biology and astronomy converge in ways that challenge the very foundations of how we think about existence on Earth. The story that unfolds next isn't just about gravitational forces or marine ecosystems. It's about discovery itself, about the moment when scientists realized that the moon's influence on life has been far more intimate, far more essential than anyone had dared to imagine. And what they found hidden in the genetic code of the simplest creatures will fundamentally change how you understand your own place in this cosmic dance. Deep beneath the surface of our understanding lies a truth that marine biologists have been piecing together for decades, one careful observation at a time. The creatures that inhabit the boundary between land and sea, those resilient organisms that have learned to thrive in the most challenging environments on Earth, carry within their cells something extraordinary. They carry lunar calendars, molecular clocks that have been keeping perfect time with celestial rhythms for hundreds of millions of years. Consider for a moment the humble marine bristleworm, Platineris du Merili. You've probably never heard its name, never seen its translucent body undulating through shallow coastal waters, never witnessed the spectacular precision of its reproductive cycle. Yet this small creature holds secrets that illuminate one of the most profound connections between Earth and space that science has ever uncovered. These worms have been living in laboratory conditions for over 70 years now, generation after generation, raised in artificial environments, completely removed from natural tidal cycles, never experiencing the rise and fall of ocean waters, never feeling the direct pull of lunar gravity. Yet something remarkable happens when the time comes for them to reproduce. Despite being completely isolated from the moon's visible presence, despite having no direct contact with natural tidal rhythms, they continue to synchronize their most critical life processes with lunar cycles with an accuracy that rivals atomic clocks. How is this possible? The answer lies in the discovery that these creatures, along with hundreds of other marine species, possess specialized proteins called cryptochromes. These molecular machines can detect the specific wavelengths of light that filter through water when moonlight touches the ocean surface. They're reading the moon's signature in light itself, decoding celestial information that travels across 250,000 miles of space, penetrates miles of seawater, and triggers genetic responses that have remained unchanged for geological ages. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. These same cryptochrome proteins that allow marine worms to detect moonlight are virtually identical to the proteins that regulate your circadian rhythms. The internal biological clock that tells your body when to sleep, when to wake, when to release hormones that govern everything from your appetite to your immune response. The same molecular machinery that allows a marine worm to synchronize with lunar cycles is operating inside your cells right now, connecting you to cosmic rhythms in ways you've never consciously experienced. This discovery has led researchers to a startling conclusion. The biological systems that govern life on Earth aren't just adapted to our planet's environment. They're adapted to our planet's relationship with the moon. The evolution of life itself has been shaped not just by terrestrial conditions, but by the gravitational and luminous influence of our celestial companion. We are, quite literally, children of both Earth and Moon, our biology fine-tuned to cosmic rhythms that preceded our species by hundreds of millions of years. The implications stretch far beyond marine biology. If lunar cycles have been influencing the evolution of life at the molecular level for so long, what does this mean for human biology? Recent research suggests that lunar rhythms may influence everything from sleep patterns to reproductive cycles, from immune function to psychological states. The moon that pulls on our oceans may also be pulling on the water that comprises 60% of our bodies, creating subtle but measurable effects on our physiology that we're only beginning to understand. Some studies have found correlations between lunar phases and hospital admission rates, between moon cycles and the timing of births, between celestial rhythms and patterns of human behavior that seem to persist even in our artificially lit, climate-controlled modern environments. While the mechanisms remain largely mysterious, the statistical patterns suggest that our bodies may still be listening to cosmic signals that our conscious minds have learned to ignore. This raises a profound question about the nature of consciousness itself. If our biology is intimately connected to lunar rhythms, if our cellular processes are synchronized to cosmic cycles, then what we call individual awareness might actually be part of a much larger conversation between life and the universe. We might not be separate beings observing the cosmos from the outside, but integrated components of cosmic systems that we're only beginning to recognize. The philosophical implications are staggering. For centuries, human thought has been dominated by the idea that consciousness is something that emerged from purely terrestrial evolution, a product of brain chemistry and neural networks that developed in isolation from cosmic influences. But what if consciousness itself has been shaped by our planet's relationship with the moon? What if the rhythms of thought, the cycles of creativity and rest, the patterns of human awareness, are all synchronized to celestial mechanics in ways that connect individual minds to cosmic processes? These questions become even more intriguing when we consider recent discoveries about the moon's influence on Earth's magnetic field. Remember those space tides we discussed? The way lunar gravity creates rhythmic fluctuations in the charged particles surrounding our planet. These magnetic variations create subtle but measurable changes in the electromagnetic environment that all life on Earth inhabits. Every living creature on our planet exists within this invisible ocean of magnetic fields and charged particles. Our nervous systems, which operate through electrical impulses, our cellular processes, which depend on the movement of electrically charged ions, our very thoughts, which arise from electrochemical activity in our brains, all occur within this fluctuating magnetic environment that pulses in rhythm with lunar cycles. Scientists are beginning to explore whether these magnetic tides might influence biological processes in ways we've never considered. Some research suggests that migratory animals use Earth's magnetic field for navigation, and if that field is fluctuating in response to lunar gravity, then the moon might be indirectly guiding the movements of countless species across the planet. Birds flying thousands of miles, whales navigating across entire ocean basins, even insects finding their way across landscapes might all be following magnetic maps that are constantly being rewritten by lunar influence. But the story extends even deeper into the molecular realm. Recent advances in chronobiology, the study of biological timekeeping, have revealed that virtually every organism on Earth, from the simplest bacteria to the most complex mammals, maintains internal clocks that govern the timing of cellular processes. These biological clocks don't just respond to the daily cycle of light and dark. Many of them also track lunar cycles, tidal rhythms, and seasonal changes with extraordinary precision. What's remarkable is that these timing systems appear to be fundamental to life itself. Organisms that lose their ability to track time accurately suffer severe disruptions in their cellular functions. Their immune systems become compromised, their reproductive cycles become chaotic, their ability to repair damage and maintain healthy metabolism deteriorates rapidly. Time, it seems, isn't just something that life exists within. Time is something that life is made of, something that's woven into the very fabric of biological existence. And if life is fundamentally temporal, if biological processes are essentially timekeeping mechanisms, then the sources of those temporal rhythms become critically important. The moon, which has been providing one of the most reliable time signals available to life on Earth for billions of years, may have played a crucial role in the evolution of biological timekeeping itself. The precision of lunar cycles, their predictability across geological ages, may have provided the stable temporal foundation that allowed complex life to evolve systems for coordinating cellular activities across vast networks of specialized tissues and organs. This perspective suggests that the moon hasn't just influenced life on Earth. It may have been essential to the emergence of complex life forms. Without the temporal scaffolding provided by lunar cycles, biological systems might never have developed the sophisticated timing mechanisms necessary for coordinating the activities of trillions of cells working together in a single organism. Consider what this means for human consciousness. If our neural networks evolved within a temporal framework provided by lunar rhythms, if our brain chemistry is synchronized to cosmic cycles, then consciousness itself might be a fundamentally cosmic phenomenon rather than a purely terrestrial one. The thoughts you're thinking right now, the awareness that allows you to contemplate these ideas, might be emerging from biological processes that are intimately connected to the gravitational dance between Earth and Moon. This connection becomes even more intriguing when we consider the role of water in both consciousness and tidal systems. Your brain is approximately 75% water, and that water exists in a complex network of cells, vessels, and spaces that are constantly in motion. Cerebrospinal fluid circulates through your brain and spinal cord in rhythmic patterns that some researchers suggest might be influenced by the same gravitational forces that create ocean tides. If the moon can pull on the vast waters of Earth's oceans, creating tidal bulges that travel around the planet twice each day, then it's reasonable to ask whether similar forces might influence the movement of fluids within biological systems. The water in your brain, the lymphatic fluids that cleanse your tissues, the blood that carries nutrients and oxygen throughout your body, all of these liquid systems might be subject to subtle tidal influences that we've never directly measured, but that could affect everything from sleep cycles to cognitive performance. Some researchers have proposed that the rhythmic movements of cerebrospinal fluid, which increases dramatically during sleep, might serve a tidal function in the brain, washing away metabolic waste products and maintaining the chemical environment necessary for neural function. If this fluid movement is influenced by lunar cycles, then the moon might be directly involved in the maintenance of human consciousness, helping to cleanse and refresh our brains according to cosmic rhythms that have been operating since long before our species existed. These ideas push us toward a radical reconceptualization of what it means to be alive on Earth. Rather than thinking of ourselves as biological machines that happen to exist on a planet orbiting a star, we might need to start thinking of ourselves as integrated components of a planetary system that includes not just Earth, but Earth-Moon system as a fundamental unit. This planetary perspective becomes even more compelling when we consider how human activities are beginning to alter the tidal systems that may have shaped our evolution. Climate change isn't just warming the atmosphere and altering weather patterns. It's changing the fundamental properties of seawater, affecting everything from ocean density to the speed at which tidal waves travel across ocean basins. Ocean acidification, caused by the absorption of excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, is altering the chemistry of seawater in ways that affect the behavior of tidal currents. As the ocean becomes more acidic, its density changes, which affects how water responds to gravitational forces. The tides that have maintained consistent patterns for millions of years are beginning to show subtle but measurable variations that reflect the changing chemistry of Earth's oceans. Rising sea levels, caused by thermal expansion of warming water and the melting of polar ice, are creating new patterns of tidal interaction with coastal environments. King tides that once occurred only during specific lunar alignments are now happening more frequently, as higher baseline water levels make it easier for lunar gravitational forces to push water into areas that were previously beyond tidal reach. These changes are creating feedback loops that scientists are only beginning to understand. As tidal patterns shift, the marine organisms that depend on precise lunar timing for reproduction, migration, and feeding are facing unprecedented challenges. Coral reefs that have synchronized their spawning to lunar cycles for millions of years are finding that changing ocean conditions no longer align with their genetic programming. Fish migrations that have followed tidal currents for countless generations are being disrupted as those currents shift in response to altered ocean properties. But perhaps most significantly, for our species, these changes are occurring at precisely the moment when we're beginning to understand our own biological connections to lunar and tidal systems. We're discovering that we're more intimately connected to cosmic rhythms than we ever imagined. Just as human activities are beginning to disrupt those very rhythms, it's as if we're awakening to our cosmic nature, just as we're inadvertently severing some of the connections that made that nature possible. This creates both an urgent challenge and an extraordinary opportunity. The challenge is learning to live as a technological species without destroying the cosmic relationships that shaped our biology. The opportunity is using our growing understanding of these relationships to develop technologies and social systems that work in harmony with cosmic rhythms rather than against them. Tidal energy represents one example of technology that aligns human needs with cosmic forces. By harvesting the energy of lunar gravity, we're not fighting against natural systems, but learning to dance with them. The electricity generated by tidal turbines carries within it the rhythm of the moon, power that flows according to celestial mechanics rather than human schedules. But the implications extend far beyond energy production. If human biology is synchronized to lunar rhythms, then perhaps human societies should be organized to honor those rhythms as well. Rather than trying to maintain constant activity levels throughout lunar cycles, perhaps we should be designing work schedules, educational systems, and healthcare practices that acknowledge the ebb and flow of cosmic influences on human physiology and psychology. Some forward-thinking researchers are already exploring these possibilities. Studies of shift workers suggest that aligning work schedules with natural circadian rhythms improves both productivity and health outcomes. Agricultural systems that time planting and harvesting according to lunar cycles often show improved yields and reduced need for artificial inputs. Even financial markets show subtle correlations with lunar phases, suggesting that collective human behavior may still respond to cosmic rhythms despite our technological sophistication. As we stand at this threshold between cosmic ignorance and cosmic awareness, between technological disruption and technological harmony, we face questions that would have seemed like science fiction just a generation ago. How do we maintain our biological connection to cosmic rhythms while developing the technological capabilities necessary for long-term survival? How do we honor the ancient relationships between Earth, Moon, and life, while adapting to a rapidly changing planetary environment? The answers may lie not in choosing between nature and technology, but in recognizing that consciousness itself might be the bridge between these apparently opposing forces. If awareness is fundamentally cosmic, if consciousness emerges from the same processes that connect Earth to Moon and Moon to space, then conscious choice might be the tool that allows us to navigate between cosmic connection and cosmic disruption. Every decision we make about energy systems, about urban planning, about the pace and priorities of technological development is also a decision about our relationship with cosmic forces. We can choose technologies that honor lunar rhythms or ignore them. We can design cities that acknowledge tidal flows or fight against them. We can organize societies that celebrate our cosmic connections or pretend they don't exist. But we can't escape those connections. The moon will continue to pull on Earth's waters and on the water in our bodies. Tidal forces will continue to operate whether we acknowledge them or not. The question isn't whether we're part of cosmic systems, but whether we'll learn to participate in those systems consciously, as aware partners in the ancient dance between Earth and Moon. This brings us to perhaps the most profound implication of recent discoveries about lunar influence on Earth. If consciousness itself has cosmic dimensions, If awareness is shaped by the same forces that move oceans and synchronize the reproduction of countless species, then individual human consciousness might be part of a much larger awakening that's occurring throughout the Earth-Moon system. Perhaps what we call the evolution of human awareness is actually the Earth-Moon system developing self-consciousness through biological processes. Perhaps individual minds are like neural networks in a planetary brain that's beginning to understand its own cosmic relationships. Perhaps the recent discoveries about lunar influence on life aren't just scientific advances, but symptoms of a fundamental shift in the self-awareness of the system we're part of. This would mean that your curiosity about lunar tides, your sense of wonder at cosmic connections, your growing awareness of the relationships between consciousness and cosmos aren't just personal interests. They might be expressions of the Earth-Moon system beginning to understand itself through human consciousness, the cosmos awakening to its own nature through the biological processes we call thought and awareness. If this perspective holds even partial truth, then the next phase of human development might involve learning to think not just as individual minds, but as conscious participants in planetary and cosmic systems. We might need to develop what we could call cosmic consciousness, awareness that acknowledges our biological integration with forces that operate across scales from molecular to astronomical. But that's a transformation that's already beginning, isn't it? The fact that you're listening to these ideas, the fact that thousands of people are drawn to explore cosmic connections through science and philosophy, suggests that something fundamental is shifting in human consciousness. We're becoming aware of relationships that previous generations could only sense in myths and intuitions. The moon that pulls on our oceans is also pulling on our awareness, drawing us into recognition of connections that have always existed but are only now becoming visible to conscious observation. And as that recognition deepens, as we learn to see ourselves as cosmic beings rather than terrestrial accidents, everything about human life and human society will need to be reconsidered. The implications stretch into every domain of human experience, from the most intimate personal relationships to the largest questions about our species' future among the stars. But those are territories for continued exploration, landscapes of possibility that open up only as we learn to navigate by cosmic light rather than artificial illumination alone. The moon is still there, still pulling, still conducting the ancient symphony of tides and life and consciousness that has been playing since long before our species existed and will continue long after we've either learned to dance with cosmic rhythms or failed to adapt to the changing relationship between Earth and space. But right now, in this moment, you have the opportunity to listen more carefully to that symphony, to notice the ways cosmic forces might be operating in your own life, in your own body, in your own consciousness. The next time you feel restless on a full moon night, the next time you find yourself drawn to water during certain phases of lunar cycles, the next time you experience shifts in sleep or mood that seem to follow patterns you can't quite identify, consider the possibility that you're experiencing direct biological communication with forces that connect you to the cosmos in ways that science is only beginning to understand. Because the most extraordinary discovery of all might be that consciousness itself is cosmic, that awareness is not something that emerged from purely terrestrial evolution, but something that connects every thinking being to the fundamental forces that shape the universe itself. And if that's true, then learning to live consciously might be the same thing as learning to participate knowingly in the cosmic processes that have been shaping life on Earth for billions of years. The ocean still breathes with lunar rhythms. Your body still moves to cosmic time. Your consciousness still emerges from processes that connect you to forces operating across unimaginable scales of space and time. The question that remains is whether you'll learn to listen to those connections, to honor them, to let them guide you toward ways of living that acknowledge your true nature as a cosmic being, temporarily experiencing existence as a human consciousness on a planet dancing with its moon through the darkness between stars. And that recognition, that awakening to cosmic consciousness, might be exactly what our species needs to navigate the challenges ahead, to develop technologies and societies that work in harmony with the forces that made our existence possible, to become worthy participants in the ancient conversation between Earth, Moon, and the vast community of consciousness that may exist throughout the universe. But these are questions that lead us naturally toward an even more profound mystery, one that connects the intimate details of biological rhythms to the largest questions about consciousness, evolution, and the future of intelligent life in a cosmos that may be far more alive, far more aware than we've ever dared to imagine. The question that emerges from this cosmic awakening isn't simply how the moon influences our planet, but whether we're witnessing the early stages of something unprecedented in Earth's history. For the first time since complex life began, one species has developed the capacity not just to observe cosmic relationships, but to consciously participate in them. We're becoming aware of our role as intermediaries between terrestrial and celestial systems, translators between the language of gravity and the language of consciousness. This transformation is happening in laboratories around the world, where researchers are discovering connections that blur the boundaries between biology and astronomy. In marine research stations, scientists are finding that the timing mechanisms in deep-sea creatures remain synchronized to lunar cycles even when those organisms have never experienced natural light. In neuroscience laboratories, researchers are detecting subtle but consistent correlations between lunar phases and patterns of neural activity in human subjects who have no conscious awareness of celestial timing. These discoveries suggest that consciousness itself might be far more porous to cosmic influence than we've ever acknowledged. The boundaries we imagine between individual awareness and universal forces may be artifacts of limited perception rather than fundamental features of reality. When you experience a moment of unexpected clarity during a particular lunar phase, when you find yourself drawn to contemplation during certain celestial alignments, when your sleep patterns shift in ways that seem to follow cosmic rather than social rhythms, you might be experiencing direct communication with forces that operate across scales from molecular to galactic. But this recognition brings with it both profound responsibility and extraordinary possibility. If human consciousness is indeed connected to cosmic processes, then the choices we make as individuals and as a species carry implications that extend far beyond terrestrial concerns. Every decision about how we organize our societies, how we develop our technologies, how we relate to the natural systems that sustain us, becomes a choice about our relationship with cosmic forces that have been shaping the evolution of consciousness for billions of years. Consider what this means for the way we approach fundamental questions about human purpose and potential. Traditional perspectives have often portrayed consciousness as either a cosmic accident or a divine gift, something that either emerged randomly from purely material processes or was bestowed upon us by supernatural intervention. But the emerging understanding of cosmic influence on biological systems suggests a third possibility that transcends this ancient dualism. Perhaps consciousness is neither accident nor gift, but participation. Perhaps awareness is the universe's way of observing itself, understanding itself, making conscious choices about its own development through the biological processes we experience as individual thought and collective decision-making. If this perspective holds even partial truth, then human consciousness isn't separate from cosmic processes, but integrated with them. Not an observer of the universe, but an active participant in its ongoing evolution. This would mean that the questions you ask about reality, the wonder you feel when contemplating cosmic relationships, the choices you make about how to live your life, aren't just personal experiences. They're expressions of cosmic forces operating through biological processes, the universe engaging in self-reflection and self-determination through the neural networks we call human minds. The implications extend into every aspect of human experience. If consciousness is cosmic participation rather than individual possession, then loneliness becomes impossible at the deepest level. You're never truly alone because your awareness is part of a larger awareness that includes every conscious being and potentially extends throughout the cosmic processes that generate and sustain consciousness itself. At the same time, individual responsibility becomes more profound rather than less. If your thoughts and choices are expressions of cosmic forces, then what you do with your awareness matters not just for your personal well-being, but for the development of consciousness throughout the universe. Every moment of clarity, every act of compassion, every choice to seek understanding, rather than retreat into ignorance, contributes to the evolution of awareness on cosmic scales. This perspective also transforms how we understand human relationships. If individual consciousness emerges from cosmic processes, then when two people connect deeply, when understanding passes between minds, when love creates bonds that transcend individual boundaries, these experiences might be expressions of the fundamental connectivity that underlies all existence. The intimacy you feel with another person, the recognition that sometimes occurs when minds truly meet, might be cosmic forces expressing themselves through biological processes, the universe experiencing unity with itself through the connections between conscious beings. These ideas naturally lead us toward questions about the future of consciousness, both on Earth and potentially beyond. If awareness is indeed cosmic in nature, if consciousness represents the universe's capacity for self-understanding and self-direction, then the development of human technological capabilities takes on significance that extends far beyond terrestrial concerns. Our growing ability to travel beyond Earth's atmosphere, to communicate across vast distances, to manipulate matter and energy on scales from atomic to astronomical, might represent crucial developments in cosmic consciousness rather than merely human achievements. Space exploration becomes not just human curiosity about other worlds, but cosmic consciousness, extending its awareness beyond the planetary system where it first achieved self-recognition. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence takes on new meaning from this perspective. Rather than looking for other beings who happen to be conscious, we might be looking for other expressions of the same cosmic consciousness that operates through human minds. Contact with non-human intelligence might not be an encounter between separate species, but a reunion between different aspects of universal awareness that have been developing independently on different worlds. This possibility suggests that consciousness might be far more common in the universe than we've typically assumed, not because life accidentally evolves awareness, but because consciousness is a fundamental feature of cosmic processes that expresses itself wherever conditions allow sufficient complexity and integration. The universe might be teeming with awareness in forms we haven't learned to recognize, from the quantum processes that generate subatomic particles to the galactic dynamics that shape the distribution of matter and energy on the larger scales. But even if consciousness proves to be rare in the universe, even if human awareness represents a unique expression of cosmic processes, the responsibility remains profound. We might be the universe's first and only opportunity to understand itself consciously, to make deliberate choices about its own development, to participate knowingly in the forces that shape reality at every scale. This brings us back to the moon, to the tides, to the ancient rhythms that have been shaping life on Earth since long before consciousness achieved self-recognition. The lunar cycles that synchronize marine reproduction, that influence the movement of fluids in your body, that may affect the rhythms of your thoughts and dreams, connect you to processes that operate across geological timescales and astronomical distances. When you align your activities with natural rhythms, when you pay attention to the subtle influences of lunar phases on your energy and awareness, when you spend time near water and allow yourself to feel the ancient pulse of tidal forces, You're not just connecting with nature. You're participating consciously in cosmic processes that have been operating through biological systems for billions of years. This conscious participation might be exactly what our species needs to navigate the challenges ahead. Climate change, technological disruption, social fragmentation, all of these contemporary challenges might be symptoms of disconnection from cosmic rhythms that have traditionally provided guidance for biological and social systems. Learning to live in conscious harmony with lunar cycles, tidal forces, seasonal changes, and other expressions of cosmic timing might offer pathways toward technologies and social structures that support, rather than disrupt, the natural systems that sustain consciousness. Imagine cities designed to honor tidal rhythms, with architecture that responds to lunar phases and urban planning that acknowledges the cosmic forces that influence human well-being. Imagine educational systems that teach children to recognize their biological connections to astronomical cycles, helping them develop awareness of their participation in cosmic processes. Imagine economic systems that operate according to natural rhythms rather than artificial schedules, allowing human activities to flow in harmony with the forces that have shaped the evolution of consciousness. These aren't utopian fantasies, but practical possibilities that emerge from recognizing the cosmic dimensions of human awareness. If consciousness is indeed cosmic participation rather than individual possession, then learning to live consciously becomes a matter of aligning human activities with cosmic processes, rather than fighting against them. But this alignment requires more than intellectual understanding. It requires developing sensitivity to cosmic influences that operate below the threshold of ordinary awareness, learning to notice the subtle ways that lunar phases affect your energy, that seasonal changes influence your creativity, that astronomical events create opportunities for deeper insight and connection. This sensitivity isn't mystical intuition, but refined attention to biological processes that connect you to cosmic forces. When you notice that you sleep differently during certain lunar phases, you're observing the influence of gravitational forces on the fluids in your body. When you find yourself more creative during particular seasons, you're experiencing the effects of changing light patterns on your neural chemistry. When you feel drawn to contemplation during astronomical events, you might be responding to subtle changes in Earth's magnetic environment that affect your nervous system. Developing this sensitivity allows you to participate more consciously in the cosmic processes that shape your experience, to make choices that honor rather than ignore the forces that influence your well-being and effectiveness. It's not about becoming passive to cosmic influences, but about learning to dance with them, to use your understanding of cosmic rhythms to enhance your capacity for awareness, creativity, and connection. This dance between cosmic consciousness and individual choice might be the key to resolving many of the dilemmas that face our species. How do we maintain individual freedom while acknowledging our interdependence with natural systems? How do we develop technological capabilities while honoring the cosmic relationships that made our existence possible? How do we expand human awareness beyond Earth while remaining grounded in the biological processes that sustain consciousness? The answers might be simpler than we imagine, emerging not from complex theories but from quiet recognition of what we've always known in our bones, that we are children of both Earth and Moon, shaped by forces that connect the most intimate details of our biology to the grandest processes of the cosmos. The next time you stand beside the ocean at night, watching the ancient dance of water and moonlight, you're witnessing the very forces that made your consciousness possible. And perhaps, in that moment of recognition, you're participating in the universe's endless conversation with itself, one conscious breath at a time. If this journey through cosmic connections has stirred something in your awareness, there's another mystery waiting to unfold. Deep beneath the surface of human history lies a story of survival against impossible odds, of our ancestors navigating a world so harsh it would challenge everything we think we know about human resilience. How did our species not just survive, but thrive in conditions that modern humans would find unimaginable? The answer reveals secrets about human potential that will change how you see yourself, and your place in the long story of consciousness on Earth.